Peter Dutton, the freshly minted opposition leader, has addressed the Parliament tonight. It's called the Address in Reply to the budget statement 2 nights ago by the Treasurer. Nonetheless, the challenge for Peter Dutton beyond tonight is simple. What can he give the Liberal family across the nation to cheer about? The Liberal Party has been Labor light for too long. Peter Dutton must begin to argue, very simply, that if a budget underpins a nation's future, what future does that nation have if it enshrines race in the Constitution? That used to be called apartheid. Peter Dutton should be saying that the Liberal Party will vote against the voice. He should be reminding the government and voters that the Treasurer said in his budget speech that it was, quote, delivered on the priorities of the Australian people, unquote. Now, in these speeches, you've got to be more than just critical of the government, but you also have to be factual and say that the priorities of the Australian people don't involve a budget deficit going from 37 billion this year to 51 billion in 2 years' time. That is woeful economic management. It's not being critical to remind government that the net debt will go from 572 billion this year to 702 billion in 2 years' time, an increase of 23%. This is not delivering on the priorities of the Australian people. To say nothing of the interest on the debt, going from 13.6 billion this year to 19.4 billion in 2 years' time, an increase of 43%. Now, if that is an acceptable priority of the government, then we need another government. Dutton's a tough cookie. He's got to forget all these image makers telling him to soften his image. These figures demand an all-out attack, especially when the Treasurer has the gall to consider this a well-being budget. The Treasurer said, and Dutton should be running off the Treasurer's language, that the budget would be framed around 3 priorities: offering some cost of living support, building a more resilient modern economy, and beginning the task of budget repair. Well, let's take the last one first. When expenditure within a government and its people is far in excess of revenue, then what do? You don't unfairly tax income further, because from income you hope individuals can secure savings. You don't further unfairly tax profit, because only from profit can you employ people. Peter Dutton should be making the case to tax expenditure. That is, increase the GST, the level of the GST. Now, hang on. Before people panic, as I've said many times, this is the one tax that we can all avoid. You're taxed on the way you live, on what you buy, on what you spend, on whether you drive a Toyota or a Mercedes, on whether you eat out or eat at home, on whether your wife buys jewellery or doesn't. Peter Dutton should make a simple case for broadening the tax base. That is budget repair. Cost of living? Well, the Albanese government won an election arguing that, quote, only Labor has a plan to get wages moving. And he has moved them backwards. I repeat, you can only pay for wages out of profit. Business has got to be given breathing space to make profit, and those profits must be fairly taxed. But today, into the Parliament, there'll be legislation presented by Tony Burke, productivity sapping, industry-wide wage bargaining. This is winding back the clock to an IR system that was dismantled by Hawke and Keating. It was then called comparative wage justice. Now it's called industry-wide bargaining. One industry, no matter where you are, same pay, same conditions. How the hell does this boost productivity and grow the economy out of its current debt and deficits?